Hey, you guys, movie retrospective time. I tried to be all slick that time instead of being all enthusiastic, you know what I mean?
I guess so.
You guess so. You just know what I'm fucking talking
I'm just
about.
trying to get through the fucking recording.
Come on, have a good time.
This was a good movie.
You had never seen this, had you?
I've never seen this movie, and if you're a fan of Night of the Living Dead, fucking George Romero, this is very much like Night of the Living Dead. It's a pandemic movie. It's kind of like a zombie movie, kind of like the original concept of the rage zombie, except the disease, there's a bioweapon that gets out. It makes people crazy. And which is kind of like a rage zombie, but they also do funny shit too, like try to sweep the grass, and they do shit that doesn't make any sense. And it's kind of like a zombie movie, but it allows for kind of like unexpected stuff to happen. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I actually had forgotten. I saw this movie probably like 25, 30 years ago, and I remember like liking it but not loving it, but I liked it much better this time. I think I appreciated it a lot more.
It's in color. It's like Night of the Living Dead, but it's in color.
It's a similar theme. I think it's more similar to Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
But not as funny.
Not as funny. Not as zany. But the tone is more like Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, so it's interesting that this is kind of like in between. This is the Crazies.
Yeah, and one of the houses that they actually are in is, I think it's the same movie from Night of the Living Dead.
It looks like the same house. I mean, it's like I was on, like I did a little bit of research, but I couldn't really find anything about that, but I'm pretty sure that's the same house. Or, I mean, it might have been...
Looks like the same staircase, the same entryway.
It does. I mean, it could be that, you know, it was just like another house in the same, and they kind of built them all to look the same, so they all look similar, but to me, it looked like the same exact house. I'm not sure if it is.
Close enough.
Yeah, so this is The Crazies from 1973. Interestingly, this is on Tubi, if you want to watch it. The one that's on Tubi has the original title card, which was codenamed Trixie. It was retitled The Crazies later on, you know, because of various distribution things. They were trying to get more people to come in. They thought that was a punchier title, I guess. So this was remade in 2010, which I think I saw, but, you know, we'll kind of talk about that in a little bit because it's not really all that similar. So this came out in 1973. This is pretty much, I think this was his second feature film, because Night of the Living Dead was the first one. That was 1968. And then, so this is almost kind of like bridging the gap between Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Although he made Martin in there too, but that's kind of like thematically different. That's more like a vampire psychological type of movie. Whereas this one is much more, it's like a zombie movie, but not, because the people are, like you said, it's kind of like what they would do in 28 Days Later, you know, this, which is obviously influenced by this, where it's a virus that makes people crazy. So they're not dead people. Yeah. It's just making them crazy.
And they have some shit in here that looks like it was kind of taken a little bit out of The Walking Dead, the first season of The Walking Dead. You got these two ex-army guys. One of them was ex-special forces. The other guy was infantry. And it's them trying to protect their girlfriends and some of their friends from the U.S. Army infantry that's coming in there in mop gear with kind of like... with mop gear is like a mission-oriented protective posture. That's that damn... You guys know it's like bio gear, biological warfare gear. They're in that, and they're going into this basically deserted neighborhood, and they're just mowing everybody down. They're trying to stop this damn outbreak. They're even threatening to use a fucking atomic bomb to fucking fry this whole fucking area to keep this fucking rage or crazy virus from fucking spreading. And it's a bioweapon. They made it. It got out. It's pretty good. Yeah. It's pretty good because it shows them, these ex-military guys trying to survive, and they start doing some morally gray shit, you know, but shit, they didn't have any choice because they were gonna get killed by the infantry. And then it also shows their leadership. Some of the guys in the fucking basically like the weapons lab and the units that are trying to stop the outbreak. So it's kind of like there are good guys on both sides. They're just trying to stop this outbreak.
Well, it's interesting because you can see, like you said, it's a very morally gray movie, and it's very downbeat, which a lot of Romero's movies were, in the sense that there's kind of like a hopeless, thing to the whole affair, you know, the way that it ends and stuff. But, you know, which is kind of like something that he did a lot. But the thing about it is that you understand every single decision that the people are making, even though like some of it's not great, and it's shit like that.
Mowing down civilians and shit.
But it's like in a way like you can understand why they did that. So Again, this is set in, like most of Romero's movies are set in Pennsylvania, because that's where he's from.
Yeah, and before you get into it, if you like Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead and all that, this fits right in there with them.
Yeah, like I said, it's not a zombie movie, but it's similar enough.
It's like the same universe and a very similar tone to the first one, Night of the Living Dead. And it's similar to almost kind of like Day of the Dead. It's similar to all of them. It's
still Romero, and Romero. He has a style.
Right. It's almost, you can tell it's part of that universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this was actually shot in Evans City, Pennsylvania, which I think is like a real pretty small town, like about 30 miles from Pittsburgh. And I guess he went there and shot it, and they got like pretty much all the townsfolk in on it because this movie was like super cheap to make, and everybody was like, "Woo, we're all going to be in a movie," because there's shit tons of extras in this.
Yeah, and it's kind of a good thing. It's shot on location, real locations, real people. Some of the people really do a good job acting. Other ones are just kind of like good enough.
Yeah.
But that was like Night of the Living Dead too. Remember the guys in the damn militia that were catching all the zombies? Oh, they're all messed up. You know, that's all ad-libbed, and it fucking came across real good. You see a lot of that in this too.
Yeah, it's kind of the same sort of thing. Like I said, there's some actors in there that you've seen in other movies, like that were actually actors. And actually, the one dude that plays the doctor, Dr. Watts, I think, the guy that's like yelling and like trying to find a cure or whatever. That dude was in Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead. I think he was in Day of the Dead, but he was in like some other Romero movies as well. I love that. That dude. He's like super funny.
Some interesting special effects, all practical effects. There's one shot where they have a fucking head of a fucking U.S. Army guy, his fucking mask and his chemical gear right there, and it's right in front of the camera, and you can see a fucking bullet hit it, and the thing fucking blow up, and fucking blood and shit. That was a real rifle shot. It wasn't a real head, but it was a real rifle shot.
Not.
That's the first time I've actually seen
realism.
That. Yeah, that was some old school shit. They just got underneath there with the camera and could shoot it. And they got it on camera. You know, it's the first. Hollywood wouldn't have the balls really to do that. I've never seen them use live ammo in a Hollywood movie.
Well,
this is some homemade shit.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it looked good.
They shot this movie for for almost nothing.
Yeah. Well, whoever took that shot, you know what I mean? Fucking, you had to trust him. I'm sure the camera was just set up running. There probably wasn't anybody under there.
Well, yeah, I mean,
but
just
you
for
didn't really
issues.
need to man the camera. But the camera fucking caught that fucking bullet going into that thing. And when it happened, me and Jenny were shocked. We're like, oh. Because there's a big difference between a real bullet impact and just a squib round.
Yeah.
Which is just a blood packet. No. It looked good. I was like, damn, that was real.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get, like I said, this isn't a zombie movie, so you don't get all the gore, but you do get, like, a lot of people getting shot, so, like, a lot of bloody kind of shit.
Yeah.
And some people are burned and shit like that, but, So, like I said,
good, too.
Yeah, so it's shot in a small town. Kind of your main good guy characters, if you want to call them that. It's two firefighters, like one dude named David. He has a girlfriend named Judy who's pregnant. And then he has a buddy whose name is Clank, which I think is really funny. I don't even know if they say that in the movie. I just knew because I looked it up. But yeah, like you said, they're both veterans. Now, they're kind of like, because the girlfriend is a nurse, Judy is a nurse, so they kind of twig onto the fact, like, pretty quickly, that something weird is going on in the town. The first thing that happens, the thing that's about this movie, and I think that Romero kind of did this a lot, and he was I don't think he was the first person to do this, but that real quick editing style he has, which, like I said, in the 70s, you didn't really see that too much. Nowadays, everything's like super fast edited because everyone has ADD and are like, come on. Yeah. But it's like you didn't really see that much in the 70s. But this one is like, the editing is like really, really fast and like really, really choppy. But the thing about it is that it really like informs this whole story, because this whole movie, and I didn't appreciate this, I think the first time that I saw it, was just, this whole movie is just like a chaotic mess, which is what it would be like in real life if this happened. So I think like the editing really goes a long way toward just showing how nobody knows what the fuck is happening. Everyone is confused and yelling. It's like no one knows what to do.
It's survival horror.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So the way that it just kind of goes like from person to person, and like sometimes there's shots where there's just like a bunch of people like yelling. What, this guy's yelling in a phone over here. This guy's yelling at this dude over here, and it's all like overlapping. And it really has has this whole like kind of atmosphere of panic.
Yeah, there's another thing that they did that was real well. It has a real good post-apocalyptic feel to it, especially when they're running around on their own in more desolate areas out in the farms and fields, and then just going into abandoned houses and stuff and abandoned stores. So they were doing shit like that. Just It's all real fresh. It's not like Mad Max level where, it has something that happened a long time ago. Everything's still stocked. It's kind of a good concept, you know what I mean? And a lot of old-fashioned interiors that you would only see in the 70s. A lot of shit from the 50s still around. Kind of had that damn Dead Mall feel to it, or something like an urbex, like urban exploration kind of video feel to it. It's definitely real low budget, but there's kind of like a homemade charm to it. It feels real. It feels real. What do you call it? The tone is very authentic in a weird way. You can tell that it's an act and they're putting on a show, but you can also kind of tell that they cared about what they were doing. It's just kind of cool that they were having fun with it.
Well, I think that's what a lot of people, even like a lot of younger horror fans, like about 70s horror, is that even if the acting isn't like up to snuff, or even if things aren't, or even if the special effects aren't realistic, there is some kind of like weird, gritty, auteur type, like almost like snuff movie kind of like feel to it. You know what I mean? That I think like lends something to the authenticity.
I think the authenticity feel kind of comes from the fact that and they know that this is a movie, and you're both in on this together. You're suspending your disbelief because they're telling you a good story. They showed you some wild shit. You weren't supposed to really believe that was a real person on fire. That doesn't matter. It's kind of like a make-believe thing, but there's still something kind of authentic about it. You can identify with the filmmakers. The filmmaker is a person like you, working in a neighborhood like your neighborhood, hiring people who are kind of like the people you hang out with to do these fucking roles a lot of times. So there's something about kind of like, you feel like you're in on the joke. Not in the joke, but in on the show.
Yeah.
Feel like it was made for you by your friends. It's just kind of what it feels like.
Well, it comes off, particularly Romero's movies from this era, they really do come off as like, this was as like a scene, because he used a lot of locals. He used, from the local theater scene, a lot of the people that just lived there that wanted to be in the movie. So he really kind of like, used a lot of his friends and like local talent. Yeah. And so so that really kind of like comes across as this, we're all going to get together and make a movie type of thing.
And you as the audience seem to be kind of like, you feel like you've been recruited in on this project to watch it. That's just what it feels like.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. That's a good way of putting it, actually. Yeah. But yeah, so I forgot to say, like, at the very beginning of this, like I said, if you don't know that this is like an outbreak movie, it's kind of good because for a long time, like for maybe like the first half of the movie, nobody really knows exactly, like nobody in the town knows exactly what's going on. At the very beginning, you just had these two kids in a house and they're kind of hiding from one another and, doing all this other kind of shit. But then they see their dad just going absolutely fucking ape shit in the house, like smashing all this kind of stuff. And they're like, what the fuck? And so they go up and like find their mom, and their mom has been stabbed to death. And then their dad sets the fucking house on fire with the little two kids in there. Yeah. So the two kids being brought into the hospital and the dad being brought in and just like acting like a gibbering idiot. Yeah. So they're just like, what the fuck is going on with this? And that's kind of how the shit kicks off. Now, it turns out later on, you find out as it goes on, like the military pretty much comes into the town and starts like, okay, we need to cordon this whole town off. Nobody can leave. They're going in people's houses and just being like, we're taking everybody to the high school because we have to keep everybody contained. And it comes to light that what ended up happening was that 6 days prior to the dude burning down the farmhouse, a military plane which contained essentially a bioweapon called Trixie crashed into like a lake or something like that. So this bioweapon, which either kills people outright or makes them just go batshit insane, has gotten into the water supply. Now, the interesting thing about this, and they think they bring this up, like one of the military guys like brings this up. They're like, dude, the plane crashed like 6 days ago. And it's like, we finally got here. We finally figured out what was going on and we're cordoning off the area. But who's to say that there wasn't some trucker coming through here who drank some water and then took off? So it's like all of their efforts might be completely useless because it's like, I'm sure it probably would have escaped by then because like in the 6 days interval, like some infected person probably went through the town or like escaped or whatever, especially if it's in the water supply. So like I said, that's what I mean about this being like kind of downbeat or being like a thing where it's like, because even when the military guys get there, And they seem like bad guys because they're dragging these people out of the house and like kind of corralling everybody to the high school. They bring in scientists to try to like work on a cure or whatever. So they are like trying to fix the problem, but they're like, well, on the other hand, we can't let this get out like farther than this small town, or we're all going to be hosed. Yeah. So they really have to kind of make a lot of hard decisions, and none of them really seem to know what's going on, like, because there's a lot of information like the top brass or whatever aren't sharing with them, so it's like this whole chaotic, like, no, it's like, I don't realistic. Know, that's what I mean. So in a way, like, it's this realistic, if this really happened in a small town, like this bioweapon, they didn't want it to get out, this is pretty much exactly how shit would go.
And that whole element, okay, the whole stopping the pandemic or stopping the outbreak thing was done by a military unit commanded by this colonel. He's played by this black dude who's fucking good. He's like one of the best actors in this. There's two really good actors. The dude who plays the colonel, and he represents the outbreak stoppers, and then the special forces guy who is the fuck the outbreak, I'm going to try to save my family. Those two dudes right there are the two main leads. And one guy's got one mission, and the other guy's got another mission. Romero was real good about casting people who were the strongest. You know what I mean? He's not really, like, for instance, Night of the Living Dead. You know, the dude who fucking ran that movie was that other black dude. Hey, remember that?
Uh-huh.
And he wasn't really cast as a black dude. He just put his best actor in the lead, and he fucking carried that whole flick. That's kind of what they did here. That when I say that the movie kind of has an authentic feel, is because you can tell that it's organic. It doesn't have any corporate sponsorship. They're not trying to sell you a product. There's no product placement, and everything is kind of like, people are cast just kind of naturally based upon what their natural skills are, and it works. It works really well. You know, you can tell there's no kind of like corporate or political agenda behind any of this shit. He's just trying to get his vision done. You know, like the good-looking girl is cast by a good-looking girl. You know, you don't take an ugly girl and make her the good-looking girl. No, it's a good-looking girl. You know what I mean? It's just something funny about it, you know? It's the way old movies were sometimes made.
Well, the thing about Romero...
It's politics, you know?
Yeah, but Romero had a lot of social commentary in his movies.
But it was his.
Big time.
But it was his. It wasn't a corporate sponsorship. It wasn't political or anything from other political... It was his commentary, his political commentary. So it felt very... He wasn't hired to give somebody else's commentary. He was doing his own. So it felt very authentic. That's what I meant by it.
But yeah, so, one thing he was kind of saying about... Well, no. I'm just... Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's just...
Yeah. It felt like that he's really doing his vision. And when you're watching it, you're like, yeah, okay, you buy it. You buy it. Because he believes what he's telling you.
One thing I thought was really interesting about this is that, like I said, even... The cool thing about this, and one of the things that I think the remake fucked up, the remake is an okay movie, but they changed something that I think made this one a lot creepier or a lot more effective. What they did in the 2010 remake was that they made the people that got the virus, you immediately knew that they got the virus. They started looking like, which, like I said, they probably ripped off from 28 Days Later, which had come out in whenever that came out, 2002 or something like that, where it's like they had fucked up looking eyes and their skin started going fucked up. The thing about the original is that you don't know who's infected or not. So in a way, that makes it a lot more tense, because not only do you have these townspeople that are just like, what the fuck? Like, all this military came in and they just declared martial law and won't tell anybody what's going on. Then they're herding them all into this high school. So you have all the military guys. And then you have some townspeople who are like farmers and shit like that, who are also armed and are like, yeah, fuck this shit. We're like gonna, shoot back at you. And then you also have military guys who are just wearing, the Oompa Loompa like outfits. Yeah. And you don't know, you can't see their faces because of the gas mask. Some of them might be infected too. So it's like, you don't know who's crazy and who's not. And so in a way, I think that's like really creepier, because it's like the crazy people don't look like rage zombies. They just look like a regular ass person.
They just act a little bit crazy.
And then they just start like very, very slowly it starts to, because like I said, the hot chick that's in this,
she starts to go crazy.
Now she's the same woman that was in like some Cronenberg movies, right? I think she was in Shivers. Yeah. Was she not? Yeah, I think she was in Shivers. You'll recognize her. She's been in a ton of shit.
got a very unique face. She's cute.
Yeah.
But you don't see people that look like that much anymore.
Yeah, I guess
not.
Not
in movies.
But yeah, so she's in this, and her dad are kind of like join forces with the 2 firefighters and the pregnant nurse, and are kind of. But as the movie goes on, the teenage daughter, she's playing a teenage daughter, even though I think she's a little bit older than that, but she's supposed to be a teenager. She just very, very slowly starts to act a little bit weird. Like somebody's like, she sees a bunch of people get shot, and she like starts laughing at it. The dad's like, she's fine. You know what I mean? So
in a zombie flick, when a person turns, they're a zombie.
Yeah.
This one, it's a shade of gray. They can be crazy, but not that crazy. They're infected. Then it just gets worse as it goes on.
Yeah, so it's like you're not entirely sure at first.
Right, just because they're a little bit crazy, that doesn't mean you have to kill them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So in a zombie flick, you'd have to kill the person as soon as they...
Yeah, they're like, oh, you gotta
go.
That's enough for you, bud.
The rules are a little bit different, because now everything's kind of gray. You're like, yeah, they're crazy, but they're not really hurting anybody.
And also, they're working on a vaccine, too. Right, and like I said, it's kind of like... And that's why I kind of like this frenetic editing, because it kind of gives a sense of the chaotic shit that's going to... Like, no one knows exactly what's going on. So it's just kind of like everyone's confused. Everyone's running around. It's like, why are the military shooting at us? And then you have all crazy people running around. It's like, are they just crazy, or are they just mad because the military's here and they're fighting back? So you don't really... are the military guys shooting at people because they have the crazy virus, or are they just doing that
because they're ordered?
That's what, or is it both? Or is it both?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. So it's like anybody could get it.
Yeah.
Because it's super, super contagious, and you don't know because there's no. It's not like it's not like 28 days later when as soon as you get the blood in your mouth, you're like, and you bust out.
It's a shade of gray.
And I think that's what they did in the remake, too, because I saw, I haven't seen it in a long time. I'm pretty sure I saw it, but it's just kind of like I saw some stills from it. And basically, when you get the disease, it makes you look different. So, so everybody knows to stay away from your ass. This one, not so much.
Right.
Like I said, it's just like little things at first. And you're just like, wait, are they infected, or are they just like acting a little quirky right now? Or we don't really know.
It's like I said, it's kind of like it's on a spectrum.
Yeah, which to me is like a lot creepier.
Well, it's also more realistic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot more realistic.
It's like they're not gonna
cut and dried.
They're not gonna look like, oh, I got red contact lenses now, and it's like
You have a group of people running at you. Some of them might have guns and they're shooting at you. Some of them are just about to be running and they got a broom and they're sweeping.
Yeah, she's sweeping the field.
Yeah, sweeping the field. So, because they're fucking crazy. You know what I mean? And just because they're crazy doesn't necessarily mean that they're a danger
That they're dangerous, right.
Some of them are dangerous to themselves, like a guy running, and then he pours gasoline on himself and sets himself on fire. What's that got to do with you? Nothing.
Yeah.
But the motherfucker was crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you got your girlfriend, and she's slipping. She's getting crazier and crazier. But she's not hurting anybody. She's just getting fucking crazy. Talking about getting married or whatever, talking about having babies. And shit, you're getting attacked by all these people, and she's talking about naming the baby. There's no baby, you know what I mean? It's just...
Well, she was pregnant, though.
Well, she was pregnant, but they're getting attacked. And the baby didn't come, so there's no baby yet, you know what I mean? She's talking about what we're going to name the baby. So it's inappropriate behavior, not necessarily threatening behavior. What are you going to do? You're going to plug your girlfriend, just fucking blow her head off? No.
Yeah.
Now you got to defend her.
So it's a lot more...
So it's a lot more complicated.
Yeah. Which, in a way, like, the more I think about it, like, the more genius that premise is, that you don't really know. And like you said, it's not... Because you don't know how the virus is going to manifest.
Right.
Because it manifests different, like, for everybody.
And they weren't really sure how it was spreading.
Well, they did say it was airborne. They said it was airborne, but it was in the water initially. Yeah. But they said it was also airborne, so they were using like that UV light because they thought that maybe that would kill it or keep it out of the air. But they were kind of trying to like filter the water and shit like that too. But much like Romero's like usual stuff, like I said, his shit's like generally pretty downbeat. Like I said, the end of Night of the Living Dead, probably the most egregious example of that. Where it's like, hey, everything's okay, and all the zombies are just and then they plug the hero that made it through the fucking shit. Similar kind of shit happens here. And this is one scene that I actually did remember from the first time that I saw it, because like I said, the dude, Dr. Watts, that was working on, a vaccine or something like to fight it, he was looking for someone immune or whatever. He was working in the high school. They set him up. He didn't have all his equipment, and he was just like constantly yelling at everybody over the CB and the phone and everything because he didn't have the shit he needed. But then like he finally worked it out, and he's like, oh, I think this is it. And he goes out of the, bio lab or whatever, like at the high school, and the military that are there don't know who he is because all the other townsfolk are also in the high school, and they're all just kind of milling around. Some of them are crazy. Some of them you don't know if they're crazy. They're just milling around because they don't know what the fuck's going on. And so he's out going be like, look, I've been working on this shit. And they're just like, yeah, just get in there, whatever. And then he gets like kind of swept up in the crowd, some of whom are crazy, some of them maybe not, and he ends up getting knocked down the stairs and dying and breaking the fucking shit. So it's just kind of like that was their chance for a vaccine, and it's like all fucked up just because of like stupidity and misunderstanding.
The guys that were doing the military guys who were trying to stop the outbreak kind of have the same function as the television in Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
It has a lot of that same tone, except it's a lot more expanded and has a lot more expanded characters in it. But if you notice that, they were kind of a lot like the television.
Yeah. They're providing exposition.
And to show you, and then there's authorities trying to do shit, but they're fucking up, you know what I mean, as usual.
Well, like I said,
it's a great movie. It's a great movie. I'd put it right there. Okay, it's hard. It's almost impossible to beat Night of the Living Dead.
I mean, it's a fucking masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece.
I love
classic.
Night of the Living Dead.
But it's real similar to that. You can tell that it's the same director. It's the same people making it.
Oh yeah, big time.
I'd probably say it's similar, but it has a lot of elements that you saw in Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Not so much Day of the Dead, but Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you can tell that this one was in the middle between Night of the Living Dead, because it has like a serious survival tone like that.
Yeah.
I feel like Dawn of the Dead had a little bit more levity, like it had a little bit more humor in it. This one, not so much. There's a little bit of humor, like the woman like sweeping the field and shit like that, but not like laugh out loud funny. There's like a couple little things, but
it's all
nothing.
Plausible. It's all plausible stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just kind of like, if it's kind of scary to think, but it's like if something like this did happen in this small town, this is essentially how it would go. No one would know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
Everything would be like, there'd be horrible miscommunication and all this other kind of stuff, and it would just be a huge clusterfuck. Yeah. And he really is, through the editing and everything, these kind of chaotic scenes of everyone yelling and having different conversations in the same room. That's pretty much exactly how it would go, and it's like really, really sad, and it's like a little bit scary too. And like I said, if something like this happened, it's like you couldn't tell if the people were crazy. Like, the military guys go in this one house, and there's this old woman sitting there like playing the piano, and then all of a sudden she flips out and like starts fucking stabbing them with a knitting needle, shit like that. Then you have the whole scene, which I watched this and I was like, ew, I forgot this was in here. But it's like the whole scene where the dad and the teenage daughter that are with like the hero group that are trying to like get out of town, and they kind of hole up in this farmhouse, and the dad and the daughter are both kind of like afflicted, not entirely, but it's still starting to affect them. And basically the dad and the daughter start fucking.
Yeah.
So, there's some incest going on.
Yeah, they were crazy. And then the guys saw that, and they started whipping his ass, but they realized that they're crazy.
Well, and the dad, it's sad too, because the dad was like aware enough, like like after he got his ass beat, he was just like, oh my God, I just had sex with my daughter, and then he hung himself.
Yeah, killed himself. Yeah.
Because he was still like still there enough to realize.
Yeah, and I think the daughter forgot about it.
Well, she did. She just kind of, well, she had been like exhibiting symptoms of craziness more, like pretty much from the beginning.
Yeah.
She was like inappropriate laughter and kind of wanted to go up and talk to the soldiers. Yeah. Even though they were like shooting at people, she was like, I just want to go talk to them. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, she's crazy.
Yeah. So she was kind of like wigged out from the beginning.
Yeah. How she died was interesting too, but it has like I liked it. It's like I said, you can't beat Night of the Living Dead, okay? But it's you can tell it's right there in between Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. And I didn't know about the movie. Now I want it. I want it on Blu-ray.
I thought you probably liked it. And I feel like this is one
I didn't know about
that a lot of George Romero fans like don't haven't seen. Like, I was watching, there's a lot of reviews of this because I think Arrow or somebody like that just did a really nice Blu-ray transfer of it like a few years back. And so I kind of feel like even a lot of younger viewers are like, they're really into like Romero's zombie movies, but a lot of them hadn't seen a lot of his non-zombie movies, like the Crazies or Martin or something like that. Like I said, this one is much more like a zombie movie than obviously Martin is nothing like a zombie movie. That's more like a vampire, psychological
It is
horror.
a zombie movie.
But this is essentially a zombie movie, but you can't tell who the zombies are.
Yeah.
And the people are still alive.
It's just a modified version of like the rage zombie idea, except it's not rage, it's random. It's just random craziness.
Yeah. So
that's even better.
So you don't even know like how the people are going to react.
Yeah, you can't trust them.
Because like I said, 28 Days Later, Danny Boyle's movie, which I'm pretty sure we've reviewed that, but that's obviously like inspired by this. Although, like I said, that virus, one, it worked immediately, and two, it made everybody angry and want to kill people. This one, like I said, it's
a lot more chaotic than
it's
that.
a lot more, because you can't really tell who has it and who's like if
and
they're
you're not sure should you kill them.
Yeah, because they're not really doing anything.
Yeah, some aren't really doing anything. So it's not so cut and dry, which adds to the chaos.
Yeah, and I had forgotten like the chaotic editing of this, but I think it really, really it really helps. Like I said, this is a movie from the early 70s. It's very low budget. So, it's going to be, and some of the acting is kind of, whatever, but... And it's very of its time, but I feel like if you are into Romero's zombie movies and you've never seen this, then you should totally watch it because it's totally along the same lines, even though it's not like supernatural.
The edits, in a way, are kind of similar. It's actually kind of similar to The Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Just that it's color.
Yeah.
And it's a broader scope. For instance, they're in that house. I'm pretty sure it's that same house, but they leave it. And they go around town.
Yeah,
too.
it's like a whole town.
So they show the whole town.
And they're trying to get out of town.
Right, and they're trying to survive in it. It's kind of like a little bit of an element of The Walking Dead, where they're running around towns and stuff, trying to survive.
Yeah, you can definitely see how influential this was. Even though it didn't really do all that well, George Romero complained because he's like, the distribution wasn't very well. They changed...
Ahead of its time.
Yeah, they changed the title a few times, like to try to get more people in it, but it didn't do that well. But it kind of like developed a cult following over the years, like in the horror community. And you can definitely see how influential this was on later outbreak movies and later zombie movies also.
Cool guns. The army carrying 30 carbines, which... If to be truthful about it, this is supposed to be taking place when? 68, 72?
73 this
73,
came out.
70, by 73 it would have all been M16s, but I don't know, maybe a second rear echelon unit, in some kind of hazmat outfits might have carried 30 carbines, but really, that with the budget that they had, they couldn't get M16s. You could get a lot of 30 carbines. Those were kind of like the AR-15s of the civilians for the days, so they got those. But cool old fucking Winchester 30 carbines with the wood handguards on the top and the bottom, and he had a fucking Browning high power. I think there's some shotguns and shit, but just they're carrying the old 30 carbine gear, web gear, Israeli gas masks and stuff. He just did a good job just trying to equip a lot of guys, because there's a lot of guys that are equipped with guns. So with the budget that he had, that's what he could afford.
It's actually pretty impressive, like how many extras there are in this, and how the costuming and shit like that is actually like pretty amazing.
They at least had 15 30 carbines.
Yeah, there must have been.
Because it's in certain scenes, there's at least 15 of them on screen at one time.
Yeah, and I'm sure they reused the same dude in different outfits.
New guys. But I think in some of those shots, there's at least 10 or 15 of them showing. So getting your hand on that many of them at once, and they are real guns because they shot that thing, and you could tell that was a real bullet that hit that fake head.
I wonder if they put a watermelon or something in there. And then put the gas mask over it. That'd be funny. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Converting shit to blank fire can sometimes be, could be a pain in the ass. There were some blank adapters you could get into the 30 carbine. As long as your master of arms could keep the shit straight and make sure that there are no fucking live rounds anywhere in set, you could do a 30 carbine pretty easily. M16 even more so. They just changed the flash suppressor out to a blank adapter suppressor and put blanks in there, and easier to do. But pretty good feat to get that many blank firing weapons on screen at one time for a small production.
For such a small budget.
Yeah.
It really does have a much larger scope.
Yeah. 30 carbines weren't really that cheap in 73.
Yeah. I'd be curious to know exactly how much this... I think maybe this cost $200,000 or something.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
They must have rented them. They must have rented those.
Yeah, there's places where you can do that kind of stuff, so it's maybe why. But so if you're into Romero's zombie movies and you haven't seen any of his other movies, because he did make other kinds, but I would definitely check it out. It's on Tubi. Like I said, it's interesting because the version that's on Tubi actually has the original title card, which is codenamed Trixie, so it doesn't say the Crazies, even though the little poster on there that you click on says the Crazies. I think they also have the remake on there. Like I said, that's an okay movie, but it's not. It's a lot different than the original. It's more like a straight-ahead zombie movie, whereas this one is kind of like a zombie movie, but not really. It's more like an outbreak type of movie. And in a way, I think it's a lot more effective because, like I said, you can't tell who it is that's affected.
It's got a shit ton of retro charm.
Yeah.
A shit ton.
Yeah. I think it might be on Amazon Prime too, but I'm not entirely sure. You might have to pay to rent it, but I think it's like pretty cheap. But check it out. It's actually pretty entertaining. And that'll do it for this movie retrospective. We will see you guys on the next one. Bye.